afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the RotoBaller Radio Waiver Wire Series. As here we are, Week 6, Monday, May 3rd, the start of Week 6, and we're going to take a look at some pitchers to add off the waiver wire. Don't forget, everybody, head over to rotoballer.com and check out everything we have there. The main page, the premium package, the expert chats, you name it. Rotoballer.com is the place to be. Whether you're looking at football, baseball, basketball, MMA, esports, NASCAR, PGA, whatever it is, daily or season-long formats, rotoballer.com has you covered. All right, sign up for any premium packages using the promotional code ACES, essentially telling them Anthony sent you. Whether it's that MLB package to guide you through the season, NFL draft is in the books. We're getting ready for the NFL fantasy football season. Sign up for that NFL package as well. And guys, don't forget, the MLB app, the RotoBaller app, is available in the App Store for free, so make sure you take advantage of that as well. All right, hopefully you've already checked out the pitching waiver wire, the hitting waiver wire. Now it's time to take a look at some pitchers to help you in Week 6 of your fantasy baseball season. Okay, remember week May 3rd, start of this week. Guys, we use yahoo.com roster percentages. Try to keep it at under 40%. There's always a few exceptions. All right, and now let's take a look. And we'll start with some starting pitchers. Madison Bumgarner. Do we now need to repay attention to Mad Bum? Is it time to focus on him, right? That 7th inning, is it a no-hitter? Is it not a no-hitter? All right, his next start is May 6th at Miami. He's rostered on 30% of Yahoo leagues. I'll be honest, I've drafted him in TGFBI, and I let him go after a couple of rough starts. It's kind of how I viewed him, was I'll take a flyer, and if it doesn't work, he'll be one of my first players dropped. But now it's a situation where we got to pay attention again. Over his last 14 days, he's pitched 17 innings with 18 strikeouts, an ERA of 1.06, and a whip of 0.47. He's been fantastic. Remind you of the Mad Bum of old, okay? On the season, 30 and 2/3 innings. The ERA is still high, 5.58. The FIP, though, is at 3.99, so he's pitching to some bad luck. The whip at 1.24. Batting average against on the season is 237. Strikes out 33 batters in 30 and 2/3 innings, about 25% of the batters he faced. So, season numbers, the ERA looks terrible. He's been dominant over the last 17 innings pitched over the last 14 days. Whip is significantly lower. And on the season, that FIP is lower than the ERA. His fastball's touching 90 miles an hour. He's throwing it about 37% of the time. Slider's at about 38%. Curveball at 22.5%. Decent matchup this upcoming week against the Miami Marlins. Cole Irvin of the Oakland Athletics, 11% rostered. Over the last 14 days, 17 1/3 innings pitched for Irvin, 20 strikeouts. Love that number. The strikeouts have climbed significantly. Okay, on the season, only 25 strikeouts in 27 innings, but 20 over his last 17 1/3. In that 17 1/3, his ERA sits at 1.56. His whip sits at 1.21. Now, batting average against for the season is high. It's at 2.82, so it makes you a little nervous, okay? His ERA is at 3.67. His FIP is at 3.44. Whip is at 1.3, okay? But that batting average against does make me nervous. He is hittable. Okay, he's not a lights-out pitcher by any way, shape, or form. Fastball sits at about 60% of the time, about 90, 91 miles an hour. Slider, 16%. Little curveball, 5% of the time. Changeup, 18.2%. Tough matchup, though, this week, April 4th, against the Toronto Blue Jays, so be mindful of that. But he is only 11% rostered. And relief pitcher and starting pitcher eligible if you're in a league that you have to use both. Domingo German of the New York Yankees, 36% rostered. And over the last 14 days, 13 innings, 12 strikeouts, an ERA of 1.38, and a whip of 0.92 at the time of this recording. On the season, 19 strikeouts and 20 innings pitched, about 21.6% of the batters he faced. Opposing hitters are hitting 262 against him. Now, his ERA is high at 4.05, but it's coming down, evidenced by that 1.38 over his last 13 innings pitched, okay? Fastball sits at about 93 miles an hour, 43% of the time. A curveball, 33% of the time. Changeup at 23.7% of the time. Aaron Sanchez that San Francisco Giant rotation that has been lights out. Sanchez, if you remember, great success as a younger pitcher with the Toronto Blue Jays. Thought his career was over. Resurgent right now with the Giants and only 15% rostered. But again, pay attention to it. Because the numbers, unlike Bumgarner or Irvin or German, he's been good since day one. Okay? 14 and a third innings in his last 14 days. 13 strikeouts, an ERA of 1.88, and a whip of 1.12. Terrific. But look at the season-long numbers. 24 and a third innings, 20 strikeouts, 20% of the batters. Okay? Opposing hitters are hitting 193 against Aaron Sanchez. His ERA on the season is 2.22. His whip is at 1.07. And here's what I'm excited about. Is besides that low batting average and that ERA at 2.22, the FIP is at 3.44. So the FIP and the batting average, I'm okay with that range there. Now, he's not throwing a fastball much, less than half of the time, 46%, 90 miles an hour. But he's mixing in a curveball 20% of the time, a changeup, 21% of the time, and the curveball 33% of the time. So he's going out there with three excellent pitchers and pitching some of the best baseball of his career for the San Francisco Giants. His next start, April 3rd, against the Colorado Rockies. That offense not doing much, beat up after that Arenado trade. But finally, my number one pitcher ad of the week, Nick Pivetta of the Philadelphia Phillies. His next start is terrific. May 4th against the Detroit Tigers, one of the worst offenses in baseball. Sign me up for that. 12% rostered. In his last 14 days, 14 and 2/3 innings, 14 strikeouts, an ERA of 2.45, and a whip of 1.09 over those 14 and 2/3. On the season, 25 and 2/3 innings, 25 strikeouts, 24% of the batters he's faced. Okay, an ERA of 2.81, a whip of 1.25, 1.25. Okay, that ERA of 2.81 is matched with a FIP of 3.74. The batting average against he's been unhittable, 176. This is what the Philadelphia Phillies dreamed Nick Pivetta would be, and what the Red Sox now take advantage of what he's become. Fastball, 90 miles an hour for Nick Pivetta about 54% of the time. Curveball, 33%, and a slider, 29%. Fastball sits at 95. So I was reading Aaron Sanchez's numbers. Okay, fastball's 96% of the 54%. At 96 miles an hour, 95, 96. Slider, 29%, and a curveball, 16.5% of the time. So you say to me, Anthony, who's your number one ad of these starters and pitchers? Hands down, it's Nick Pivetta. Okay, besides the numbers, I think are more believable than some of these other guys. I love the short-term benefit of him pitching May 4th against Detroit. Aaron Sanchez sits at number 2. Okay, Cole Irvin, I'm in at number 3. Domingo German, 4. And Bumgarner is my number 5. A lot of wear and tear on that arm. Bumgarner is the guy's short-term solution against Miami, but be ready to drop him when it goes bad once again. His number's skewed by that 7-inning no-hitter just a bit. If you need to look at relief pitchers, if we're chasing saves, 2 pitchers stand out. Josh Staumont of the Kansas City Royals. He should be the number 1 closer added. And he's not as available as the rest of the guys here. 54% rostered. So less than half the leagues is he available, but it was still low enough for me to mention today. Over his last 14, he's got 3 saves, 7 and 2/3 innings, 8 strikeouts, an ERA of 1.17. On the season, his ERA sits at 0.68 over 13 and a third, striking out about 24.5% of the batters he faced. Guys, his batting average against for Staumont is .071. He has allowed 3 hits and 1 earned run in 13 and a third innings. He's 2 pitches. He's a fastball. He's a curveball. Fastball hits 97. And now Kansas City seems to have made him the closer. And he's just been lights out on the year. Even if he's not getting you saves, he's helping those ratios with that low batting average against. The ERA on the season is 0.68. The whip on the 0 is the same. Okay, he's just been lights out. Another opportunity at saves, although not with as great a ratio, Rafael Dolis of the Toronto Blue Jays. 26% rostered. He has 2 saves over his last 14, 5 and a third innings, 4 strikeouts. ERA over the last 14 is 169. All right. Now his ERA on the season sits at 3.18. Again, batting average against .083. Dominant numbers. Fastball, 95 miles an hour, 64% of the time. A slider, 22% of the time. And a split finger at just under 14% of the time. 12 strikeouts in 11 and a third innings this year. 26.7% of the batters he faced. And finally, Tejay Antone. If you listen to Josh and I on SiriusXM in the morning, you've heard me talk about Antone. He has been dominant for the Cincinnati Reds, and in my opinion, on his way to becoming the closer of the Cincinnati Reds. Doolittle, we know Doolittle. Lucas Sims hasn't been great. Amir Garrett's been even worse. Okay, and here's Antone. 41% roster on Yahoo. 11 strikeouts in his last 7 and a third innings over the last 14 days. Does have a save in that period with a 1.23 ERA and a 0.82 whip. On the season now, 20 strikeouts in 14 innings pitched. 37.7% of the batters he faced, he has struck out on the season. Sign me up for that to become my closer. His batting average against on the season, .091 with a 0.64 ERA and a 0.71 whip. Okay, 4 hits and 1 earned run on the season in 14 innings. He comes at you with 3 pitches, pretty much split evenly. A 96 mile an hour fastball, 32% of the time. A slider at 33% of the time, and the curveball about 35% of the time. But he has been dominant. In my opinion, will eventually be the closer, if not sooner than later, for the Reds. But again, another pitcher who, even if he's not getting you saves, is helping your ratios tremendously. Okay, strikeouts over a short span, batting average against, whip, ERA, all super low. Like I said, starters, give me Pivetta first. Okay, he's my number 1. Relievers, I'm putting in aggressive bids for Tejay Antone and Staumont if they're available. A little less aggressive on Dolis of Toronto because we know other pieces of that bullpen will get healthy. Okay, but Antone and Staumont, those are my relievers to add, priority ads for week 6 of the fantasy baseball season. All right, everybody. Follow on Twitter at Aniano Fantasy. Head over to rotoballer.com. Sign up for that premium package using the promotional code ACES. And we will see you next week with the week 7 hitters and pitchers off the waiver wire. In the meanwhile, stay smart, stay safe, and we'll see you next time right here on RotoBaller Radio.